Excuse me, Councillor Short. May I ask you if you could hold the line 1 second? We're having trouble with the sound.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll come back to you in 1 minute. Sorry, we're live now with sound. Would you like to restart? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so Guy Bishop, our legal advisor, has just dropped from the call, unfortunately. I'll continue on until we get to the proper business. So as we're in a virtual meeting, please could I ask that when you speak for the first time, please state your name clearly before you begin. Councillors, if you could introduce yourselves with your title and name, and other attendees, could you state your role, your name and role, please? You don't need to do this every time that you speak, but it will help if you do it for the first time. Members of the panel, if you want to raise a point during the meeting, if you could use the chat box, which is found on the top right of the screen. When you can type question during the meeting, I'll be keeping an eye on that, and I'll come to you in due course. At this hearing, there is no cross-examination allowed. All questions will be asked through the chair. And then when moving on to item 3, there were no declarations mentioned during introductions, so I'll take that as read. Moving on to item 4, the minutes of the previous meeting are not yet available. So I'd suggest that we briefly adjourn until he's back. Never mind. That we now move on to agenda item 5, which is the application for a new premises license held in respect of the premises known as Sammy's Studio Star Barbers, 40 Central Road, Worcester Park. The applicant and those who've made valid representations should have received the procedure for the subcommittee. Could I just check that that's correct?
James, no, that's correct.
Yep, okay. Could I therefore ask Hannah Smith, Licensing Officer, to present the officer report, please?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Hannah Smith. I'm the Licensing Officer for Sutton Council. Today we have a new premises licence application for Sammy Studios Star Barbers, 40 Central Road, Worcester Park, KT4 8HY. This was made on June 22nd by National Compliance Training Limited, acting as agent for Mr. Salah Abdullah Rasili. The application seeks a new premises licence to authorise the supply of alcohol on the premises only, Monday to Friday, 10 AM till 6:30, Saturday, 10 AM till 5:30, and Sunday, 10 AM till 3:30. Relevant pages of the application form are attached on Appendix 1. The proposed hours of operation are again laid out on Appendix 2. I can confirm that the application was advised by way of a poster displayed at the premises and by an advert within the local newspaper. The application was also advertised on the council's website. I can confirm that all responsible authorities received a copy of the application. No representations were received from any of the responsible authorities. However, we did receive one valid representation which was received from other parties. The representation makes reference to matters that relate to the prevention of public nuisance, public safety, and the protection of children from harm. A copy of this representation is attached on Appendix 3. A map showing the approximate location of the premises is attached on Appendix 4, and photographs of the premises are attached on Appendix 5. In considering this application, the committee is required to take into account the Secretary of State's guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act and its own statement of licensing policy. Relevant paragraphs are attached to Appendix 6. If the application was granted with The applicant has proposed a number of additional measures to promote the licensing objectives. These measures, which could be attached to the licence as conditions, are laid out on Appendix 7. I will happily answer any questions you may all have.
Okay, thank you. Do members of the committee have any questions for the licensing officer? I'm not seeing any, so I will move on. Could I ask the applicant, Mr. Salah Rasuli, or the applicant's agent, Mr. James Knight, to provide your submission to the subcommittee? You'll have up to 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm back again.
I believe Mr. Knight has just dropped from the call again. Mr. Rasuli, do you want us to adjourn until he can rejoin?
Yes.
Okay, could we please adjourn for a few minutes, Sharon, until the agent has returned?
Hi, James Knight. I'm back in a meeting. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, that's fine. Are we
My
good
apologies. I think I clicked the wrong button when trying to unmute my phone, so my apologies there.
That's okay.
Okay.
Are we ready to go, Sharon?
Yep, you're live.
Okay, good. Mr. Knight, would you want to provide your submission, please? You'll have 15 minutes again.
Okay, so firstly, with regards to the concerns raised about public nuisance and public safety, it was clearly stated in our application that the applicant will ensure that they will be responsible for the disposal of waste on the frontage of the premises and make provisions for emptying of bins outside the premises. There'll be no evening entertainment in the premises. It's purely to provide haircuts. With regard to the protection of children, there'll be a robust Challenge 25 policy in place. There'll also be a training program in place for all staff within the shop, with all staff completing every 6 months awards for underage sales prevention and proof of ID training to ensure that they fully understand what is classed as a valid identification to help ensure that children are protected on the premises. With regard to public health, obviously as a barber shop, they currently abide by all public health policies related to COVID-19 as mentioned in the representation. And whilst there is no inconvenience caused, it would improve the hospitality and level of service that they're able to offer within the barber shop. So they'll be doing all that they can to uphold public safety by ensuring that everywhere is cleaned. And obviously, whilst they can't serve alcohol at the moment under Public Health England grounds, the aim would be that once those restrictions were lifted from COVID-19, they would then be able to. That's the end of our representation.
Okay, thank you. Do any members of the committee have any questions for the applicant? Councillor Gillian Green.
Good morning, Mr. Rasuli and Mr. Knight. I do have a couple of questions actually. So Chair, bear with me. On page 29 of the application, which I had here a minute ago, but I've lost it. Hold on. You say that all staff will receive regular training on the responsible sale of alcohol every 6 months, with a record of training kept up to date on the premises. Who will be doing this training? Will it be through a recognised professional company? or will just one person go and have the training and then train the others who are employed within the business?
That's a very good question. All training will be CPD accredited training, and that will be issued to all staff. So all staff will attend that training. So it won't be that one member of staff is going and then disseminating that information. Every member of staff will do the training, and that will be fully CPD accredited.
Forgive me, I'm not very good with anachronisms. What's CPD, please? I'm a bit
career
fuzzy.
path development. So that's a nationally accredited standard for training.
Right, okay. The second thing is safeguarding children. You say that's everybody will be trained, and again, is this the career path development, or will this be done by a proper safeguarding children expert?
That would be CPD training, obviously to make sure that they were aware of Challenge 25, what valid identification is, and complete a CPD course in the awareness of underage sales prevention.
Thank you. One other question from me. If you say that only those purchasing a haircut will be allowed to purchase alcohol, well, young men in their late teens and early 20s are often accompanied by friends, and the friends usually sit in the shop and they have banter. If these friends aren't actually purchasing a haircut but want to buy alcohol, will they be refused? I mean, that's what you say, but it would be very difficult to do that when they're actually in the premises.
Yes, that's our intention. So the intention would be only for those that were in the shop to get a haircut would be able to get alcohol.
And what would stop somebody then who's sitting in the chair having his hair cut, say purchasing, I don't know, a bottle of Bud and saying, oh, I'll have 3 of those?
We only really envisage that as they're only coming in for a haircut, they would have one drink whilst they were in there getting a haircut. They're only going to be able to purchase a drink whilst waiting for the haircut or having a haircut. So I fully take on board your point. However, we would make it very clear to any customers that were in the shop that drinks could only be purchased for those that were having a haircut, and appropriate signage could also be placed in the shop.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just following on from that, actually, there is a point there that Councillor Green was making that I don't think has necessarily been fully answered, and that's regarding what you would do if what preventative measures are in place if such a situation were to arise where you do have, say, 3 or 4 people accompanying someone getting a haircut, they're demanding drink. What preventative measures are in place to, firstly, for the staff, to protect the staff, but also other members of the public using the venue in the event that that sort of situation does happen?
That's a very good question. Obviously, it would be made very clear to those individuals if they were asking for purchase of alcohol that due to the licensing conditions that were in place, that they would not be able to receive a drink. It's purely really for those that are getting a haircut to be able to receive a higher level of hospitality whilst they're receiving their drink. So you've raised a good point there, that there needs to be suitable training in place to make sure that staff are properly trained to make sure that they deal with that situation appropriately.
Okay, Councillor Clifton has some questions, so I'll hand over to him.
Yes, good morning, and yes, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. This is quite a small shop, so you kind Can I just ask, how many barbers' chairs are there actually in your shop?
I'll just pass you over to Mr. Rasuli for this because he'll have more details about the shop itself.
There is 5 barber chairs in the shop.
5 barbers' chairs. Gosh, right. And then there's somebody arriving. Might you actually sometimes have sort of 5 people having their hair cut and other people sitting waiting?
No, it's bookings only at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Yeah.
take book. Yeah.
Okay, but presumably you will come out of eventually we hope we come out of the pandemic, and it's it may not people will turn up. And you I just want to be clear, you did talk about people purchasing the drink, because when I first looked at your application, I thought, well, it's the intention here that as one of your sort of selling points is that you come along and have a haircut and you're given a opportunity, you're given a glass of wine or beer or whatever. People will actually purchase and pay for the drink.
So is that Mr. James or me? Who's the question for?
Well, whichever of you would like to answer it. Would Mr. James like to
I'll let
answer it?
Mr. James
Okay.
take on the lead, yeah.
Mr. James?
My apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep. So sorry, I was talking and I was still on mute. The initial intention is that yes, it would be to improve the hospitality and level of service that's offered. So it would be that for those people that are coming to get a haircut, would, as you described, be able to get a beer or a glass of wine or what have you, or a soft drink alongside their haircut. So initially that would be provided complimentary whilst they're waiting for a haircut, but obviously there is the potential that they may want an additional drink, for which there would be a charge.
Okay, because I thought that was interesting. Yeah. So there may be a complimentary drink, and then they might have the opportunity to buy something more. Because I just wondered, one of the sort of selling points maybe of coming into your barber's shop would be the opportunity to have a to have a drink, and which may attract people with a bit of a drink problem. And presumably in terms of the training, all right, then there could be people who will, they'll be expecting to spend quite some time in the barbers and have quite a few drinks. So presumably, one would envisage there could be a point at which the barber has to say, well, actually, you've had enough now, and that's it. Is that right?
Absolutely. With the responsible sale of alcohol, it's important that those that are under the influence aren't sold more alcohol.
Right. Okay. I think where will the alcohol be stored?
I'll pass back over to Mr. Rasuli for this.
So we have got a small fridge inside the barbershop, which is facing the customers. It's got alcohol drinks in it as well as soft drinks. Yeah, so that's where it's going to be. Okay, so it'll be stored there. Yeah, inside the barbershop. Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. I think that's my questions.
Okay, thank you there, Councillor Clifton. Just to follow on from that, and I note that Councillor Green has commented in the chat something similar to what I was about to ask. Is that fridge lockable, or will it presumably be? Are there any mechanisms to stop people just coming on in and essentially stealing alcohol from you? Or is there any a lock or something similar, or is it just open?
There isn't a lock on the fridge, but the fridge is under the desk, and only staff members can have access to the fridge. So when customers come in, we offer them the drink, and we take the drink up to the customer.
Okay. I don't think there's anything, unless any others have any further questions. I'm not seeing anything.
Not from me, no.
Yeah. Okay. In which case we'll move on. So there has been a valid representation submitted by a member of the public, but they're not able to attend the hearing, so they've sent their apologies. Could I just draw attention to the representation? It's on page 41 of the agenda pack. While we can't question the person who submitted the representation, do members of the committee have any questions for the legal advisor around the representation, please?
Not from me, no.
Okay. Could I just ask very, very quickly, just for clarity here and so that we're being open, the representation makes reference to public health. Just to be clear, we can't, I presume we cannot consider that when coming to a decision on this.
Yeah, sorry, it's Guy Bishop here, legal advisor to the committee. The public health issues related to COVID-19 as well as related to general themes are things that I would suspect will fall into, with a bit of balance, I would have thought, into public safety issues under the licensing objectives. But what you as a committee need to be aware of is that the representation doesn't really provide any evidence related to the concerns that she raises. That is a concern for you as a committee when you carry out your balancing exercise in terms of the evidence you've considered in terms of the application made.
Okay. Could I therefore very quickly come to the licensing officer perhaps to speak to some of the elements around public nuisance and public safety? Have we had any, are there any issues that have been raised in the area previously around those from memory? Sorry to have put you on the spot there slightly.
Sorry, I'm back now, sorry. No, we've not had any issues the only sort of noise complaints were more from the bars, which are located further down the high street. Where this premises is, I think the closest restaurant or bar would be Nando's and Bronco's, but I've received no complaints. Like I said, the representations went to, the application went to the responsible authorities, and no objections were raised. I believe the operating schedule it met their requirements of what they were looking for.
Okay, thank you. As there's I don't have any further questions at least. Councillor Clifton has a question for you, Hannah.
Well, I was just going to ask, I mean, all right, the representation mention is made of children who may come to have a haircut. But all right, we have on page 63, there's quite a long list of conditions about closed circuit television, etc., incident logbook, etc., and staff training, which deal with a great many issues, of course, that may arise in your mind. Can you just say a word about the enforcement of this and who is actually checking on that these conditions are met?
Yeah, obviously, if the license was revoked today, if we, for example, we did receive a complaint, obviously our first step is to get in contact with the license holder to discuss the allegations that have been received. We can, if we're there and we request to see training documents, we can do that. We can also view the CCTV as well, but that's on the basis that we receive a complaint.
Okay, are there any further questions there? Councillor Kirsten?
No, I asked my question to Hannah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Having now said that, would the applicant please would the applicant feel the need to sum up, provide the last word? Are there any points that you want to come back to?
No, I think we're happy with our representation, and we feel that we're taking the necessary steps to ensure that all of the licensing objectives are being upheld.
Okay, thank you. That being the case, I'll now ask the committee to retire to make our decision. The full decision will be provided to the applicant, as well as those who made valid representations within 5 days, and a brief decision will be emailed to the applicant as soon as possible. The minutes of this meeting will be added to the website in due course. Thank you all for attending. I'll now like to close the meeting.